Welcome back to Rome Boys. Today we have a special guest, Deacon Alan Pelzel. So this is our interview with the deacon.
Showtime!
All right.
Okay.
So who wants to start?
Go for it, yeah. So
hammer it
fire
off.
away.
All right, why should a man consider being a deacon? Deacon.
That's a good question. Thank you for asking that.
Let's start with the hard one first.
I think there's a part of service that a lot of men, yearn for to serve stuff, and I think that's one of the deacons' calling is to serve, and so not only do we have a chance to serve the people, but we also have a chance to serve God and to strengthen His kingdom here on earth.
I thought it was for the paycheck.
Yes, that too. That's too.
Right.
Do you get a paycheck?
They call it a stipend.
It was double. No, better not say that.
Gas money?
No.
They doubled zero?
Double zero, yeah. 2 times nothing is still nothing. But the reward will be great.
Amen, amen, amen.
Amen.
We hope.
Amen.
That's what we do it
Betting
for.
on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say it's a sacrifice at times?
There is a lot of sacrifice. I think it's sacrifice, because most of the deacons have other, what is the word I'm looking for, Chris?
Responsibility.
Yeah, this isn't the only thing you do,
Responsibilities,
right?
That's right. We all have other jobs,
A
have
life.
other things, have a life.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is torn between the church and our personal lives. So it is a challenge balancing that. It definitely is a challenge doing the family life and making sure that part is covered first. Because that was one of the things our bishop told us was, first is God, your marriage and your family, and then comes your service for the church. And we have to make sure that the family is happy, and if mama ain't happy, isn't nobody happy.
Watch out.
Well, and that was kind of one of the questions we wanted to get to is, this is a sacrifice, and you do have other responsibilities in your life. And so a lot of people need your help throughout our church community. And it also includes your wife and family if you have one, right?
One of the things that it couldn't be done without them, without them and without their support.
Yeah.
They, Marilee is there behind me, pushing me. A lot of times encouraging me, but and sharing, because there's times that I have to leave a family gathering and run and assist at mass or do something else, whatever is a calling during that part of the week. So it's it is a challenge, but with the support of the family and the wife, and luckily at my stage, my children are all gone. They're have
Grown,
their own
not
life.
gone.
Grown.
He just doesn't know how to spell. It's gone.
Yeah, out of the house.
There you go.
But so it is me and her, and I also have to rely on her instinct too. There are times that she'll say, "I think you might ought to say no,"
Yeah.
and it's hard to say no, especially the father.
Right,
It's hard to say no, but there's times you have to, and there's times that I have to say no. I'm gonna say yes because it is something that I agree to do, is to help there too. So.
And it seems like a ministry is not obviously it is for the glory of God, but not here. Like the praise, I mean, you probably don't get a whole lot.
Oh no,
and then your wife and your kids get even less. And so
yes,
it seems like it's
exactly.
one of those things. It's not for.
It's such
this world.
it's a challenge and a balancing act, and like I said, we serve for the glory of God,
Amen.
but we serve. Our whole goal is to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like our goal as married people.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal is to get our spouse to heaven.
Amen.
Well, as a deacon, I think that's part of our responsibility too, is to get our parishioners, our people, to heaven.
Heaven has a wide array of fine dining just steps from your room. Have a light bite at the Pope of Sandwich Village.
And help them every step of the way that we can.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you're making a sacrifice and you're taking on extra responsibilities. I mean, one that comes with joys, lots of joys, I'm sure. But
There's so many good parts and bad parts, and some of the some of the best parts for me is it's weddings. I've been blessed to be able to help with a lot of marriage prep, getting to know the people who are getting married, just having conversations with them, being able to assist during their ceremony. That to me is awesome. But one of the other things, and it's you think of a blessing, but is to help with funerals. And it's such a tough, hard time, but to be able to maybe share a little comfort, and to me, that's been a blessing on my side. It's just being able to be there and talk with the family and.
Was that something that, as you went through the diaconate program, that they were preparing you for, not only scripturally but emotionally and mentally? Did they prepare you for funerals?
Not really.
Yeah.
We
Just throw you to the lions. Here you go.
Yeah,
Throw you in the fire.
We did a little hands-on, went to the cemetery and practiced a couple burials, but we never really had the hands-on, and we had a deal about grief and handling grief and things like that, but it's until you jump in with both feet. It's hard to imagine.
That's a great analogy for this comment I was going to make, which is like Jesus to Peter.
Right.
Here's the keys.
That's
Don't mess
screw
it
it
up.
up.
Yeah,
There you go.
They're dropping in the water,
Yeah,
And
or-
just jumps in.
yeah.
Like, hey, Lord.
Here I am.
Here we go.
Give me the keys.
Serious
Does it come
faith.
with an owner's manual?
Yeah.
Give me the keys. What do I do with it?
Yeah. Good luck.
It reminds me of a saying from one of the books. Is if you want to walk on water, you have to get out of the boat. And that is so true. Before you can really experience anything, you gotta get your feet wet.
Yeah.
You gotta get out of that boat, get out of your comfort zone, and just do it. And,
Journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
From that day on, if I was going somewhere, I was running.
Right.
that's it.
Speaking of steps, so what are the steps in the process of becoming a deacon?
I guess the
He's a
first-
farmer, so you gotta,
I need step by step
step by
plan here.
step by step.
Asking for a
one
friend.
thing at a time.
The first thing you have to discern. You have to talk with God. You have to visit with Him. You have to lay it all out there for Him and be willing to listen to Him and listen to that answer, because He's going to call you if it's right or wrong. But then, on the other hand, you also got to talk with your wife. You have to make sure they're on board, and your family, and because it's a
Wait, I have to talk to my wife?
If you could see the bubble over Joe's head.
it's one of those things that they have to be on board, because it's a 5-year commitment. Just once you've said, yes, I want to try to maybe do this. So it's 5 years. In our case, it was 5 years, 1 week in a month of classes. And they switched it around now. There's a lot of online things that they're doing now. Ours was all Friday from 5 o'clock till lunch on Sunday, and we had class, had a professor, and it was pretty in depth.
Well, some of the letters in Scripture, right? That's kind of like their online version.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're messing up. This is how you need to do it.
Didn't you get the memo?
But and during those 5 years, your wife was expected to be there too. And like I said, they've changed it up a little bit. The wife isn't expected as much now, but that means your family also going to have to be without you for that 1 weekend a month. And nothing happens in the community except that 1 weekend of the month.
Of course,
that
it all
second weekend of the
converges.
month when you're at the retreat center, so everything else happens.
Every time.
And it's you have to. There's a lot of give and take on that one too.
And I'm sure daily, like you're studying, right? Monday through Friday,
It was constant, in the office, writing papers, reading books, and
you have grades and stuff. I mean,
grades. Yeah, they expected
Is
you
it pass fail?
to pass fail.
So you're back in college.
It's back in college, and it is college courses.
So is there a minimum age limit then to become a deacon?
It's funny you should ask.
I mean, you're so young. I didn't know how.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
yeah.
you very much. I think Father has confessions tonight. So you say 35, I believe, is the age.
Okay.
Now, that's also when you're ordained. So you could start at 30 in 5 years. You could do that.
Okay.
There's also
you're recruiting people here.
Yeah.
This is good.
There's also a maximum age, and I
know
believe
that.
it's 60.
Okay.
But you know how everything is.
Yes.
There's an exception to every rule.
Sure.
Okay.
There is exceptions, and the bishop can grant those exceptions.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had quite a few in our class that was over 60 when they was ordained.
Oh yeah. And it's possibly needs based, and then
Health. I mean,
yeah,
Health and-
other factors.
Our class was formed for parishes without deacons, and that's how our class was formed. And there was, like I said, there was a lot of us that had to get exceptions. I did not have to get the age exception. I was old enough. Let's put it that
Okay.
way.
Yes.
But there's also an education.
How about that?
They would like you to have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And there was quite a few of us that had associate's degrees or things like that, but didn't have a 4-year college degree.
Yeah.
And they can waive that too.
Well, it would kind of tell me, that they're just looking for people that are going to be committed to something for the long haul, because their education level could be, greatly different.
Yeah, because the apostles, they didn't
Yeah.
have BAs and
Yeah.
even associates.
And look at
degrees.
them.
Yeah, look how they turned out. They're great saints. So yeah, definitely.
A lot of them were full of BS, but
Well, I think as we progressed through the 5 years, would it have helped? It would have been awesome.
Sure.
Because, I was not a reader.
But you became one, I guess.
Yeah, I read
Trial
more
by fire.
books than I ever had. And I definitely wasn't a writing term papers. That wasn't me either. Became that too, with the help of word correction or whatever.
Yeah.
autocorrect.
Thank God for laptops.
Yeah.
With autocorrect.
Autocorrect,
Sometimes it can make you sin. Sometimes so do you feel like that education that you got, that there's opportunities for you to use it maybe in like RCIA and in other programs where people are asking you maybe some tough questions?
I believe every day it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you remember back in high school and you had algebra. Well, I'll never use that.
You never studied.
Right.
And there was times we were sitting in the classroom during our formation. What would I need that ever for? What do I need to know about church history? Lo and behold, all of a sudden it
there.
clicks and it's
yeah.
there. Or you know where to go back and find it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's trying to discern whether, or let me ask you this first. What what finally convinced you to become a deacon, or what did you always want to be a deacon, or was it something that's on a whim?
How much time do we have?
As
Sitting
long
on
as
the
you
edge
knew.
of the.
I mean, there was a little voice in the back of your head. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
got louder. I mean, what was it?
You know, it's a. I guess I'll put some names out there. Back when I was 16 years old, Monsignor Larry Droll approached me about a vocation to the priesthood.
Okay.
And we talked, and I did some discerning. And all of a sudden, a young lady came into my my wife came into my life. And, so it wasn't the time. It really wasn't. But it was, I think a seed was planted back a few years ago. And then we go forward, and what is it, 10 or 12 years ago, when the class before us was being formed, I was approached. Hey, Alan, why don't you be a deacon? Discerned, prayed about it, talked about it, but the timing wasn't right. Something there, and a lot of things in my life wasn't ready for that. When this chance came about 7 years ago, it was ready. It was right. And, we talked about it, we discerned about it, prayed about it, and the answer came back yes, and so it is God's time, not our time.
Yeah.
And when he said, okay, you're ready to do this, you just kind of listen. Would I say get started sooner? I think I would, just because, as I think Pope Francis says, you need to smell like the sheep. You need to be out there with the group. And I think that's, you might have more energy when you're younger. I'm just saying. Not that I have lack energy, but, it is something that, just to be able to serve.
It reminds me of Romans 8:28 to some extent, where, as you're going through each of those callings and people tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, maybe you should consider being, a deacon, that God doesn't necessarily just call the qualified, but he qualifies those that are called. And so, and it takes that diaconate process, right, to become qualified to do the job.
Has there ever been a moment when you're like, whoa, that was the grace of the sacrament that really just did that, whatever that was, and you're like, whoa,
I think
God
it
took
was
over.
aha moments every
Yeah.
day.
All right.
Every day, there's things that I was saying a prayer somewhere, and some word came out of my mouth. I don't even remember what it was, but I could see the people on the other side. They were just looking. Where did that word come from? I said, I don't know. But he does.
I don't even know what it means.
Yeah,
You're so smart. You're so smart.
Wow, he's awesome.
but it does. It's just following his lead. That's the whole key to it.
So kind of then if you can just, I know it's difficult and every day is probably different, but what's a day in the life of a deacon like? I mean, obviously Sundays are
great
going to be.
How long do you have?
Is it?
Every day is different,
Yeah.
Of course, as a deacon, we're required to say the morning and evening prayers. Okay. So in the morning, we start with
liturgy
morning
hours,
prayer, the liturgy of the hours, yeah. And, depending on if the alarm goes off or not, you can do the liturgy of the hour of the morning prayer in 10 minutes, so you spend some time in prayer. And then it's life as usual. 9 times, I get up, go to work.
Right.
Yeah.
And during the day, you never know who you're going to get a phone call from. During this time, the phone calls have ended, or have not ended, has kind of slacked off because we're not having the services. We don't, the funerals we're not doing, and so that part is. But it's there's still the planning stage now. Because of our limited mass schedule, there's more planning for my part.
I have a plan.
So has your job changed since the whole quarantining? Or you've alluded to it a little bit.
Yeah, I believe
Not
it
many
has.
phone calls, but anything else?
Yeah, I believe it has. Well, we discontinued RCIA. It's on hold. There's a lot of things that are on hold that, we'd like to get back to normal. And I know everybody out there is ready to get back to normal. But, we still, people still call. They still asking questions. We're still trying to help.
So do you have an office at the church?
No.
Is that right? No?
No.
Oh, well, I guess every parish is different.
Every parish is different. Yes. Yes.
So
I have an office at my house.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So what recommendations would you have for somebody who's contemplating? There's that big word. Contemplating.
Contemplating. Definitely, like we said, discern, talk with the family, talk with your priest, because he's living the life and his prayers, mean a lot too, and make sure, I think there's always a need, but there's, it's the priest got to be supporting you too, and we're just so blessed that we have a priest that supports his deacons and allows us some free time, and but also allows us to do our thing too. And so I think I think you have to get the family involved. You have to be prepared. You're gonna have to take on the task and make sure you have time to do it.
Right.
It is some time.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So as far as like some of maybe the authority through the church, I've heard it said that the deacons are the right hands of the bishop at times, and so there's some connection directly there. So how does all that work?
The bishop, we answer to the bishop.
Okay.
Okay.
He's the boss.
He's the boss.
Yeah.
Now I would say the father is the manager.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He-
Put it into the business world here.
That's right,
Yeah,
in the
we got the
business world.
supervisor.
Sorry,
Yeah.
the entrepreneur, right?
Exactly. So the bishop has the final say, but we really answer to the priest, to our parish priest.
If you want things to go smoothly.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
We love you, Father.
Isn't
We love you,
happy,
Father.
Nobody's happy.
Right.
Don't worry. Be happy.
No, you go.
I think you've done a great job of answering a lot of the questions that a lot of people have, and if you have more, please comment. We want you to ask the questions and engage, and I'm sure Deacon Alan would love to read those comments and get in there and respond as
Be
well.
right on top of it.
yeah,
There you go. Because he's got lots of time for that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's
Right
right.
now.
No office but a laptop. And,
Yeah.
But you say so the role of the deacon kind of came alive after Vatican II. I mean, before that there wasn't very many deacons. I mean, as far as in your average parish. And I was in Kansas for 11 years, and most parishes didn't have a deacon, and some dioceses actually kind of looked down upon it. So, what would you encourage? Just what's the positive of having a deacon in a parish? What versus a parish that doesn't?
Putting our put in our case, in the case of our three parishes, Father can't be everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
So it does kind of help him, and we're able to help serve the other people. I believe that just being another person that represents the church,
Sure.
and that is so much that we do have to do. We, everything, we have to be careful what we say and what we do, and how,
Sure.
and
It eases the burden of
it
the
Well,
eases
it
the
just,
burden.
like
Because the father is overworked. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
you
a lot of
said-
times he is wore out. So
Well, the phone calls that you get, I mean, those calls would be going to Father if you weren't available.
and
or is it a lot of time fathers going call the deacon?
That's right. He's been known. Ask the deacon.
Ask the deacon.
We love you, Father.
Yes. And then we're blessed to have two other deacons too.
which is awesome.
That's
How many
great.
parishes have 3 deacons?
Exactly.
Oh,
Pretty great.
But it's only one per parish.
Okay.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah,
we have to share.
We should.
Yeah,
We
which is a
should.
good thing.
Yeah. We just work together good.
Yeah. I guess one final question before we turn you loose. What being this whole coronavirus, quarantine and everything, what steps can we take coming out of it, hopefully soon, to help evangelize, get Catholics to move up in the pews? Can we move them from the back to the front?
Take the back pews out. That's what I'm thinking. No.
You could just go pew
And then
pew
they'll stand in the back.
You know, I think we have to get more people involved. You know, I see in all of our parishes, all our communities, and it's great that we have a core, and we have the core of that people doing so much of the work. But we have to reach out to the other ones. You know, we have to encourage them to volunteer, to help, to be a minister, whatever part of it is. There's so many different ministries. But we also have to, the people are going to have to volunteer also, because, you know, in the back of my mind, and I know it's a lot of times, is, well, I would have never thought, for instance, to ask Chris to help me with RCIA. You know, he's a convert. What does he know? You know, but then somebody said, hey, you know, Chris might want to help.
Yeah.
And he was all on board. So who I think might be a great fit for lector might not want to read at all, but there's somebody back there that says, hey, pick me, silently and not raising their hand. Right. So
see, Mom, I have friends.
We have to encourage them.
You can do it!
Yeah.
And you know, just get them involved.
It reminds me of, you're talking about motivating factors and why people would move to the front. I mean, there's really only two motivators in the world, and it's inspiration and desperation. You know, and I think maybe some of those people that are desperate just to get into heaven, which I hope we all are, they're just kind of doing that minimum requirement, and they're showing, they're getting in there, and they're, you know, maybe taking communion and leaving before the end of Mass, and some of those things. It's unfortunate. I don't mean to make light of the subject, but how can we inspire them, I guess, is the question.
You know, it's a shame we don't have a maximum. You know, we always have these minimums. You have to confess your sins once a year. You have to do the, you know, why not? Let's confess our sins every day. You know, Father would be overwhelmed. But, you know, let's look at a maximum. What can we do to assure ourselves eternal happiness and life?
My immediate thought is that, gosh, your homilies are really good. I mean that, and I think that does put people, at least whatever pew they're in, on the edge of it, and they're leaning forward. And so I think that's something that does help. I understand that's not the center of the Mass and why we're there, but the other thing that struck me when you said is, let's ask, and I think it's our responsibility. Invite people to Rome Boys channel. Shameless plug. But you know, really, I think we all have the responsibility to do that one thing, and that's invite.
Okay, great. Well, Deacon, appreciate you taking some time out to spend with
us.
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
Yes, sir.
And,
thanks for being here.
I think you did a great job.
I agree.
Be sure and like and subscribe. Invite your friends to the Rome Boys channel and to our Facebook page, and we will see you next time. Thank you. God bless.
God bless.
Bye.